All right. Good morning, everyone. Hello, and welcome back to our morning book buzz. We hope you all had a great and restful holiday weekend. I know it was much appreciated for our team as we recover from another busy but galvanizing ALA. If you haven't seen me before, my name is Rachel Tran. I'm buzzing from New York, and I'll let my fellow presenters introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Sharnell. I'm buzzing to you from Southern Pennsylvania, and I'm very happy to be presenting today.
Hi, everybody. My name's Kate, and I'm buzzing with you from Manhattan, New York. And I'm also very excited to share all of our upcoming titles with you.
So, as I mentioned, we so enjoyed seeing everyone in person again and having spent some time with you all, being generally very bookish. And so, speaking of being bookish, we're going to share some of our summer reading staff picks with you all today. And my summer reading staff pick is Disappoint Me. I do admit that what drew me to this first was the beautiful cover, but the story follows Max, a trans woman approaching 30 who is filled with millennial angst, looking to both heal her fractured relationships and find herself along the way. But the writing is both very heartfelt and very fun, and so I would highly recommend it for a summer read.
Mine is a little bit different. It's Too Old for This by Samantha Downing. I absolutely love Samantha Downing. I devoured My Lovely Wife and her others, and this one is on par with the others. And it's basically about an older woman who she's retired from her job at the bank as well as her hobby of murdering. But she comes out of retirement of the last one to tie up some loose ends when people start asking about her past. And just how she writes it, it's almost like saying, oh, I have to go to the store for milk for this recipe, but she's like, they're at my door. I guess I have to get my hammer. Like it's wonderful. And I'm always like, I could see it. I could see, she's really speaking to something. So yeah, I definitely recommend this one's very fun and definitely will keep you on your toes.
All right. And then my summer pick is The Compound by Aisling Rawl. I will be open and honest with everybody. I'm saving this one for when I'm on vacation, so I haven't cracked into it quite yet, but I'm super excited to start it. It's basically a dystopian kind of literary fiction that follows a group of people on a compound that's being streamed for reality TV during the apocalypse. So it's kind of the perfect combination of like dystopian fiction and Love Island. I think it's going to be the best beach read, and I'm so, so excited to dig in.
Well, you had me at Love Island, so
Yes,
I'll
the
add it
best
to the
Dystopian
part.
Island
pile.
is great.
Yeah.
So if you haven't already, please drop your summer reading recs in the comments. It's really fun to see what everybody's reading. I see a lot of my own personal favorites in here. So yeah, definitely keep writing those down as we're presenting, and hopefully we give you guys something new to read along the way. All right, so two quick notes before we get started with the presentation. There will be a wrap-up sent out to all registrants, including a recording of today's presentation and a copy of the slides. So please, we encourage you to sit back and relax and don't feel pressure to write all of this information down or copy links as quickly as possible. So you will have all of this information after the presentation. And I also wanted to point out we have our format key here on this slide, which will indicate the formats each title will be available in, as well as an orange E indicating if there will be an e-galley available.
All right. And then I'm sure, as many of you know, we have a ton of catalogs on our website. Our newest ones are going to be for fall 2025. So for your own reading pleasure or for your patrons, if you want to get your eyes on what's forthcoming, be sure to check out our website, penguinrandomhouselibrary.com. We have a ton of great options for you guys. And then Book Club Brochure Volume 30. I cannot believe it's been 30 of these. As again, probably many of you know, these brochures are a great resource for you, for your book groups, for your patrons. Basically, just give you a little bit of information about currently book club titles that are currently out, and some questions as well to go along.
And make sure you're signed up for our newsletters. They are the best way to stay in the loop on new releases, events, and special resources for libraries and patrons.
And also be sure to check out our Summer Reading Hub. It's packed with a ton of great resources, including summer reading challenges, title recommendations by genre, and so much more. All right, so we are going to kick things off with some comfort reads. And first up for me is My Beloved, where #1 New York Times bestselling author Jan Karon gives her fans what they want for Christmas, which is a new Mitford novel. When Father Tim's wife Cynthia asks what he wants for Christmas, he pens the answer in a love letter that bears his most private feelings. When the letter goes missing and circulates among his astonished neighbors, so much for private, can a letter change a life? Ask Helene, the piano teacher who has avoided her feelings for a lifetime. Ask Hope, the village bookseller who desperately needs something that's impossibly out of reach. Or, if you'd like to know how a brush with death can be the portal to a happy marriage, Cynthia will tell you all about it. In My Beloved, Harley gets an important letter of his own. A broken heart teaches the old mayor, Esther Cunningham, a lesson long in coming. And thanks to Lace and Dooley, readers get what they've been waiting for, Sadie. Poignant, hilarious, and life-affirming, My Beloved sets a generous table for millions of readers who love these characters like family. With Karen's signature humanity shining through on every page, this is a season of life in Mitford you won't want to miss. This is perfect for readers of charming small-town stories and fans of Debbie Macomber and Nancy Thayer.
The Ex-Boyfriend's Favorite Recipe Funeral Committee is a charming, heartfelt novel from Japan about heartbreak, healing, and the meals that linger long after love ends. 29-year-old Momoko has just been dumped brutally. One minute she thinks that her boyfriend's about to propose, the next she's alone in a love motel. Heartbroken and a little drunk, she wanders into a local cafe where she pours her story out to the owner and a quiet monk. As she recounts how her ex loved her cooking, the cafe owner invites her into the kitchen to make his favorite meal, butter chicken curry. To Momoko's surprise, the act of cooking and sharing her story brings comfort she didn't expect. So they try it again with another heartbroken guest. And just like that, the ex-boyfriend's favorite recipe funeral committee is born. Based on the real-life experiences of debut author Saki Kawashiro, this cozy novel includes 8 real recipes and will appeal to readers of Before the Coffee Gets Cold, the Kamigawa Food Detectives, and anyone who turns to food and friends for comfort. And then next we have The Queen Who Came In from the Cold, which is the 5th installment in the S.J. Bennett uh, series featuring Queen Elizabeth II as an amateur sleuth, this time set in 1961 at the height of the Cold War. While spending the night aboard the royal train with her sister, Princess Margaret, the Queen hears troubling news. A witness claims to have seen a brutal murder from one of the train carriages. Nobody, nobody has been found. No one saw a thing, and the possible victim may be a missing photographer tied to Margaret's husband, Tony Armstrong Jones. The Queen teams up once again with her assistant private secretary, Joan McGraw, for a quiet but high stakes investigation, one that leads them through a web of Cold War intrigue, royal scandal, and espionage that could derail an important diplomatic trip to Italy. Full of sharp wit, period detail, and pitch perfect royal voice, this series has been called sheer entertainment by the New York Times Book Review, perfect for fans of The Crown, Miss Marple, and anyone who enjoys a well-mannered mystery with teeth.
All right, and then next up, I have Bob Dylan, Things Have Changed by Ron Rosenbaum. In 1977, in the midst of what may have been the longest interview he ever gave, it stretched over 10 days, a chain-smoking Bob Dylan confessed to journalist Ron Rosenbaum that he was troubled by something missing from his music. Dylan, who was editing a dramatic movie based on his life, even as his life seemed to be falling apart, told Rosenbaum there was a sound he was after that he'd only come close to on one record so far. The sound, he told Rosenbaum, was a thin, wild mercury. What was behind it all, Rosenbaum asked, and how can we understand Dylan through his lyrics? Tracing it from Bob Dylan's childhood through the still touring singer's late, often inscrutable lyrics, Rosenbaum probes Dylan's argument with God and his differentiation between authenticity and sincerity, and his relentless heretical stances. Ron Rosenbaum has covered Dylan for almost the entirety of his and Dylan's career, starting as a Village Voice culture reporter in 1969. This is a deeply personal and literary appreciation, and as Dylan continues to tour and compose new songs, still refusing to play old songs the same way, Rosenbaum offers a moving and involving portrait of an icon who may have been more constant than it appeared after all.
All right, and I have the pleasure of presenting Bread of Angels, a radiant new memoir from beloved artist and writer Patti Smith, author of the National Book Award winner Just Kids. God whispers through a crease in the wallpaper, writes Patti Smith in this indelible account of her life as an artist. A post-World War II childhood unfolds in a condemned housing complex described in Dickensian detail: consumptive children, vanishing neighbors, an infested rat house, and a beguiling book of Irish fairy tales. We enter the child's world of the imagination where Smith, the captain of her loyal and beloved sibling army, vanquishes bullies, communes with the king of tortoises, and searches for sacred silver pennies. The most intimate of Smith's memoirs, Bread of Angels takes us through her teenage years when the first glimmers of art and romance take hold. Arthur Rimbaud and Bob Dylan emerge as creative heroes and role models as Smith starts to write poetry, then lyrics, merging both into the iconic recordings and songs such as Dancing Barefoot and Because the Night. This is Smith's most intimate and powerful memoir to date, perfect for readers of Eve's Hollywood by Eve Babbitt and The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion.
I'm so excited for this one. I
Me
just
too.
finished Just Kids for the first time, and this is like perfect kismet timing.
Oh my gosh, yes it is. So excited. All right, and some more moving memoirs. I'm also delighted to kick off this category with Paper Girl by Beth Macy. I actually have the ARC with me here because I'm that excited to read it. And this comes from the New York Times bestselling author of Dope Sick and one of our most acclaimed chroniclers of the forces eroding America's social fabric. This is her most personal and powerful work, reckoning with the changes that have rocked her own beloved small Ohio hometown. Urbana, Ohio was not a utopia when Beth Macy grew up there in the 70s and 80s, and certainly not for her family. Her dad was known as the town drunk, which hurt, as did their poverty. But Urbana had a healthy economy and thriving schools, and Macy had middle-class schoolmates whose families became her role models. Though she left for college on a Pell Grant and then a faraway career in journalism, she still clung gratefully to the place that had helped raise her. But as Macy's mother's health declined in 2020, she couldn't shake the feeling that her town had dramatically hardened. Macy had grown up as the paper girl, delivering the local newspaper, which was the community's civic glue. Now she found scant local news and precious little civic glue. Absenteeism soared in the schools and in the workplace as a mental health crisis gripped the small city. And after her mother's death, she decided to figure out what happened to Urbana in the 40 years since she'd left. The result is an astonishing book that, by taking us into the heart of one place, brings into focus our most urgent set of national issues. Paper Girl is a gift of courage, empathy, and insight. Beth Macy has turned to face the darkness in her family and community, people she loves wholeheartedly, even the ones she sometimes struggles to like. And in facing the truth, in person, with respect, she has found sparks of human dignity that she has used to light a signal fire of warning, but also of hope. This is for fans of Macy's previous work and for readers of Educated and How the World is Past.
Amazing. And next up, I have Like a Wave We Break by Jane Chen. So on paper, Jane Chen was the embodiment of success. She was a Harvard and Stanford graduate. She was the CEO and co-founder of a company that developed groundbreaking incubator to help save hundreds of thousands of newborns in the world's most vulnerable communities. Yet, underneath it all, she was burning out, consumed by self-doubt and a relentless need to prove herself, shaped by wounds that had formed long before her career began. Then her company collapsed. Jane lost more than just a dream. She lost the identity that she had built her life around. Feeling utterly broken, she set off on a global quest for healing. She dove headfirst into every form of self-help, from the spiritual to the psychedelic, from the cultish to the comical, only to find herself face to face with the one thing she had spent a lifetime avoiding: the trauma of her upbringing as a first-generation Taiwanese American. Jane discovered a profound truth: that real healing doesn't come from achievement, approval, or even the tools we think will save us. This is a revelatory memoir that's absolutely filled with candor, humor, and hard-won wisdom. It's more than a story of personal transformation. It's an invitation to confront our deepest wounds and to embrace the messy, beautiful truth of who we are. Tony Robbins said, Jane Chen's powerful and poignant book illustrates how we can use our struggles to serve others. This is going to be a great memoir.
It sounds like it's going to be really good, and I just added it to my list because, yeah, seems like it's
Yeah,
going to be profound.
I'm very excited.
So then next, we have Letters from Japan. In Letters from Japan, Marie Kondo, international best-selling author and star of Tidying Up, steps away from the clutter to offer her most personal book yet. Co-written with her longtime collaborator, Marie Ida, this reflective work explores the deeper cultural roots of her signature philosophy. Through gentle, lyrical essays, Kondo shares the Japanese traditions that shaped her: tea ceremonies, seasonal rituals, the art of tending gardens, and the quiet power of intentional living. What emerges is more than a meditation on tidying, it's a thoughtful tribute to values and customs that define her worldview. Written as both a response to readers curious about the woman behind the method and as a legacy for her children, Letters from Japan is a graceful, intimate book that will resonate with fans of cultural memoir, mindfulness, and quiet joy.
Let's see if this memoir does spark joy. All right, so if you were at ALA, hopefully you were lucky enough to see this next author on our list. So closing out memoirs, we have The Man of Many Fathers, from comedian, Emmy-nominated writer and producer, and former Daily Show correspondent Roy Wood Jr., comes an unforgettable, laugh-out-loud, funny memoir revealing that sometimes the best advice comes from the most surprising teachers. When Roy Wood Jr. held his baby boy for the first time, he was relieved that his son was happy and healthy, but he felt a strange mix of joy and apprehension. Roy's own father, a voice of the civil rights movement in Birmingham, Alabama, had passed away when Roy was 16. There were gaps in the lessons passed down from father to son, and, holding his own child, Roy wondered, have I managed to fill in those blanks to learn the lessons I will one day need to teach my boy? So Roy looked back to figure out who had taught him lessons throughout his life and which he could pass down to his son. Some of his father figures were clear, like a colorful man from Philadelphia navigating life after prison, who taught Roy the value of having a vision for his life, or fellow comedians who showed him what it took to make it as a working stand-up performer. In The Man of Many Fathers, Roy shares what he's learned with humor and heart, delivering the most memorable lessons: how to become a man and a good dad. This is perfect for fans of Roy's comedy specials and for fans of comedian memoirs like those from Kevin Hart, Ali Wong, and Tiffany Haddish.
And we loved having Roy at ALA. He was just
It
the
was
best.
amazing.
All right, next up, to take a turn, we're going into some sci-fi and fantasy for you all. So first up, we have Colin gets promoted and dooms the world. Warning, under no circumstances must an employee strike a deal with an unauthorized personnel on Dark Enterprises property. Such behavior may result in death or the end of the world. So we follow Colin, who's a low-level employee at Dark Enterprises, a hell-like multinational corporation solving the world's most difficult problems in deeply questionable ways. After years of toiling away in a cubicle, he's ready to climb the corporate ladder and claim the power he's never had. The only problem is he's pretty sure he's about to get terminated. Like, terminated. That's tough because his friend just set him up with a great guy. In fact, maybe this guy's a little too great and asks a lot of questions. When Colin meets a shadowy figure promising his deepest desires in return for a small, unspecified favor, he can't resist the urge to fast track his goals. He asks for the one thing that will improve his life, a promotion. But that small favor unleashes an ancient evil. People in New York are disappearing and the world might be ending, and management is starting to notice. Getting to the top is never easy, and now it's up to Colin to save the world. It's the ultimate power move, after all. This is going to be really great, really funny, perfect for people who are looking to climb the corporate ladder themselves or just looking for a good laugh and some great science fiction.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And so next up, we have Hole in the Sky, a gripping thriller and a Native American first contact story from the New York Times bestselling author of Robopocalypse. Daniel H. Wilson, who is a Cherokee Nation citizen and has worked as a threat forecaster for the United States Air Force. On the Great Plains of Oklahoma, in the heart of the Cherokee Nation, a strange atmospheric disturbance is noticed by Jim Hardgray, a down-on-his-luck father trying to reconnect with his teenage daughter, Tawny. At NASA's headquarters in Houston, Texas, astrophysicist Dr. Michaela Johnson observes an interaction with the Voyager 1 spacecraft and concludes that something enormous and unidentified is heading directly for Earth. In an undisclosed bunker deep in the Earth, an American threat forecaster known only as the Man Downstairs intercepts a cryptic communication and sends an urgent message to the president and highest-ranking military brass. First contact imminent. Hole in the Sky is a riveting thriller in the most creative tradition of extraterrestrial fiction. First Contact comes to life through a Native American lens with adrenaline-charged, stunning results. It is a propulsive read that asks probing questions about non-human intelligence, the Western mindset, and humans' understanding of reality. Perfect for fans of The Three-Body Problem and the film Arrival.
Yeah, this one sounds really good too. And another book that sounds really good, The White Octopus Hotel by Alexandra Bell. The White Octopus Hotel is a cozy time-traveling love story set in a magical hotel high in the Swiss Alps. In 2015 London, Eve Shaw is a reclusive art appraiser still reeling from a family tragedy. When a silver-haired man named Max Everly visits her office, something about him feels hauntingly familiar. Not only does he share a name with her favorite composer, he also makes her feel like they've met before. Soon, Eve is transported to 1935 and finds herself wandering the glamorous snow-covered halls of the White Octopus Hotel with a much younger Max. Inside this strange and beautiful place, time bends and doors lead to different eras, including 1918, where Max is recovering from the trauma of war. As the two navigate the hotel's mysteries together, they begin to uncover how their lives are connected and whether they can rewrite their stories. Filled with vintage charm, quiet magic, and emotional depth, this is perfect for fans of The Midnight Library, The Time Traveler's Wife, and The House in the Cerulean Sea, a heartfelt debut for adults from UK author Alexandra Bell.
Wonderful.
And now on to two books that talk about family curses. This first one is Cursed Daughters from Oyinkan Braithwaite. The best-selling author of My Sister the Serial Killer comes Cursed Daughters, a sharp, wickedly funny novel about love, family curses, and the weight of superstition. When Iniyi is born on the same day as her cousin Monife is buried, the resemblance is uncanny. Her family becomes convinced she's Monife's incarnated and that she's doomed to repeat her tragic fate. Add to that the family curse: no man will call your house his home, and if they try, they will not have peace. The three generations of women live under one roof, all shaped by heartbreak. But when Aniyi saves and falls for a boy who nearly drowns, she decides to fight her supposed destiny, delving into the spiritual underworld in search of answers, even if it means risking everything. Blending modern life with inherited magic, Cursed Daughters is biting, perceptive, and full of unforgettable women. It's a novel about second chances, breaking cycles, and daring to rewrite the stories passed down to us.
All right, amazing. And then next up, we have I, Medusa by Ayanna Gray, who many of you may know as the best-selling author of the young adult series Beasts of Prey. This is her step into adult fiction with I, Medusa. So Medi has spent her whole life as a footnote in someone else's story. She's out of place next to her beautiful immortal sisters and her parents, and she dreams of leaving her family's island for a life of adventure. So when she catches the eye of the goddess Athena, who invites her to train as a priestess in her temple, Medi leaps at the chance to see the world beyond her home. In Athens, Medi absolutely flourishes in her role as Athena's favored acolyte, getting her first taste of purpose and power. But when she is noticed by another Olympian, Poseidon, the course of Medi's promising future is suddenly and irrecoverably altered. When her locks are transformed into snakes as a punishment for a crime she did not commit, Medusa must embrace a new identity, not as a victim, but as a vigilante, and with it, the chance to write her own story as mortal, martyr, and myth. I, Medusa is exploding with rage, heartbreak, and love, and it portrays a young woman caught in the cross currents between her heart's deepest desires and the cruel, careless game that the Olympian gods play. All right, and now we have Conform, some dystopian romance for all of you. And this is the must-read first novel from Jenna Bush Hager's new venture, Thousand Voices. So we follow 27-year-old Emmeline, who's a lifelong outcast, and she spends her days alone, sorting ancient art for destruction. Centuries after a catastrophic war nearly decimated humanity, society is now ruled by an elusive group called the Ilum, who constantly monitor the population's health and mandate procreation contracts. But Emmeline's bleak existence is shattered when, for the first time in decades, an Ilum named Colin takes a mate, Emmeline. Baffled as to why she was chosen, Emmeline is swept into the dangerous game of the courting, where one wrong move can mean elimination. Soon she discovers a rebellion rising in secret, and that her mate may be keeping secrets of his own. Colin is confusing, cold, protective, and worse, she finds herself drawn to the very last person she should be falling for, Hal, one of the resistance leaders. As she draws closer to both Colin and Hal, the Ilum exercise their power in increasingly brutal ways, forcing Emmeline to question everything. Most of all, whether she'll have to give up on her heart and even her life to stop them. All right. And now we have a couple book club picks for you all. So first up, I have Mars Cartlett, The Force of a Story, which is the newest novel in the Port Williams series. So we follow Andy Cartlett, whose story begins as his grandfather, Mars Cartlett, rises in the dark to travel from his farm by horseback and train to Louisville for the auction of his 1906 tobacco crop. The price paid for each year's crop has been depressed to virtually nothing by the power of a single buyer, James B. Duke. This year is especially grim since the price offered to each grower is less than the expense of bringing the crop to market. A year's labor is lost. Mars returns to his family defeated, defiant, and determined to grow another crop. Many of his fellow farmers at first seem to lack the resiliency and resourcefulness to continue. Only with the cooperation of other growers can a way be found that protects these farmers and keeps their rural families vital and in peace. The power and depth of this story and of the many stories within the history of the Port William membership resonate with love, kindness, and held memory of family and community. This is going to be a perfect book club pick. And then next up, taking a little bit of a turn, we have A Guardian and a Thief by Megha Majumdar. This is a follow-up to her best-selling novel, A Burning, which was longlisted for the National Book Award, and it is set in near-future Calcutta, which is beset by flooding and famine. We follow Ma, her 2-year-old daughter, and her elderly father, who are just days away from leaving the collapsing city to join Ma's husband in Ann Arbor, Michigan. After procuring long-awaited visas from the consulate, they pack their bags for their flight to America. But in the morning, they awake to discover Ma's purse containing their treasured immigration documents has been stolen. Set over the course of 1 week, a guardian and a thief tells two stories. The story of Ma's frantic search and for the thief keeping hunger at bay during a worsening food shortage, and the story of Boomba, the thief, whose desperation to care for his family drives him to commit a series of escalating crimes whose consequences he cannot fathom. This is a kaleidoscopic portrait of two families, each operating from a place of ferocious love and undefeated hope, each discovering how far they will go to secure their children's future as they stave off encroaching catastrophe.
So from one family to another, we've got Big Kiss Bye Bye by Claire Louise Bennett. And in it, oh, sorry, I skipped a line. Claire Louise Bennett is one of today's most inventive and acclaimed literary voices. She returns with a tender, intimate meditation on love, memory, and the strange afterlife of intimacy. Uprooted from the city to a quiet countryside, the unnamed narrator drifts through the remains of her past connections, uh, especially her relationship with Xavier, a man who believes he knows her better than she knows herself. She still loves him, but no longer desires him, a truth he refuses to accept. Then a letter from an old acquaintance unlocks a flood of remembered encounters, each man a mirror, a mystery, a mismatch. Their lingering traces, a kiss, a coffee stain, an unwanted bouquet become a kind of emotional archive she attempts to decipher. In lyrical, unflinching prose, Bennett examines the question that haunts us. What does it really mean to connect, to be seen, to let go? Big Kiss Bye Bye is a deeply reflective and masterfully crafted novel that will resonate with readers who love introspective fiction that explores the invisible architecture of relationships.
And speaking of haunting, I am so excited to present this book. So next up we have Tom's Crossing, new from the best-selling author of House of Leaves, which is one of my personal favorite novels of all time. Comes a magisterial new book about two friends determined to rescue a pair of horses set for slaughter. Hard to figure how so much awful horror could have started out with just them two horses and not a one yet named. While folks still like to focus on the crimes that shocked the small city of Orvup, Utah, back in the fall of 1982, not to mention the trials that followed, far more remember the adventure that took place beyond municipal lines. For sure, no one expected the dead to rise, but they did. No one expected the mountain to fall either, but it did. No one expected an act of courage so great and likewise so appalling that it still staggers the heart and mind of anyone who knows anything about the Cataganos Massif, and to say nothing of Pillars Meadow. This is Daniel Luskey's first standalone novel in over 25 years and his first major standalone publication since House of Leaves. This is a major work, and it is the most propulsive and accessible offering from this beloved cult author, a novel primed to be the literary event of the season. For fans of Trust by Hernan Diaz or The Passenger by Cormac McCarthy. And next up, we have Her One Regret from the author of the book club favorite, The 9 Lives of Rose Napolitano. This comes a riveting feminist thriller that tackles an unspeakable taboo, regretting motherhood. When successful Rhode Island real estate agent Lucy Mendoza vanishes, leaving her baby behind in a grocery store parking lot, the news quickly makes national headlines. Lucy's best friend, Michelle, is devastated and terrified that Lucy's life is at stake, but she knows something that could complicate the police investigation. Lucy had confessed something unspeakable. She regretted becoming a mother. So much that she fantasized about faking her own kidnapping. If the police and media were to find out, Lucy would become a monster in public opinion. Michelle is sure Lucy would never abandon her daughter, but could she be wrong? Could Lucy have been so desperate she chose to escape her life? Her One Regret is at once a pulse-pounding feminist thriller, a moving depiction of the realities of motherhood, and a rich exploration of a subject our culture and society have rendered nearly verboten: the possibility that for some women, motherhood is an unfixable mistake. This is for readers of women's fiction and crime fiction with complex female protagonists.
That one sounds really good, and I feel like book clubs will have a
Frightening.
lot to say
Yeah.
about it. Um, Up next is Thirst Trap, a sharp, funny, and emotionally rich debut about three lifelong friends in Belfast who are staring down 30 and starting to wonder if their messy, hard partying 20s have run their course. Carly, Rosha, and Maggie have been inseparable since primary school. They still live together, spending nights in crowded pubs and their days juggling dead end jobs, heartbreak, and hangovers. But lately, the cracks are starting to show. Harley, Harley is infatuated with their landlord. Rosha is cautiously navigating a new office romance, and Maggie is chasing after a woman who barely texts back. And all three are quietly carrying grief. The death of their friend Lydia still lingers, along with the fight they never resolved before she passed. Their house has held it all: parties, secrets, and emotional sprawl of early adulthood. But now, as the walls and friendships alike begin to crumble, each woman has to face what's next. Can their friendship evolve with them, or is it one more thing they'll have to leave behind? With the heart of writers and lovers, the grit of girls, and the charm of dairy girls, this novel is an ode to the chaos and comfort of female friendships. Grania O'Hare is a fresh new Irish voice to watch, and this book is full of humor, heartbreak, and unforgettable characters.
I'm so excited for that one. I'm a fan of Writers and Lovers, Girls, and Dairy Girls. So you
Yeah.
have all my ideal comps. I'm really, really looking forward to Thirst Trap. All right, and then I have for you all The Story of the Forest by Linda Grant. So it's 1913 when Mina, the young and carefree daughter of a Jewish merchant, roams into a forest on the edge of the Baltic Sea when she encounters a gang of unruly, charismatic Bolsheviks and an adventure that will become the stuff of familial lore for generations to come. Intending to save her from further corruption, and in an act that forever changes the trajectory of their family's life, Mina and her eldest brother, Jossel, board a ship to England. There, the threat of a different war looms large. When World War I hits, Jossel is sent to the front, where he keeps a severely wounded soldier in his unit alive until morning by telling him tales, including that his sister Mina will marry him if he survives. The soldier lives and asks for Mina's hand, and their marriage uniting to growing trade dynasties. But over time, Mina and Jossel will learn that not everyone in their family has survived wars and pogroms. This is written by masterful novelist Linda Grant, and it's from Zando's new SJP Lit imprint. It's historical fiction you won't want to miss.
Next is The White Hat, which is in the same vein as her One Regret. Um, so from Pulitzer Prize winning Chiara Alegria Udes comes The White Hat, a fierce lyrical novel about a runaway mother, 10 Days of Freedom, and the raw, messy path to self-discovery. April is a young mom living in a loud, chaotic Philly household, surrounded by generations of unspoken secrets and emotional landmines. Her only refuge is a locked bathroom, ambient noise in her headphones, and a quiet mantra: dead inside. But one day, standing on the edge of her own volcanic anger, the white hot, a voice inside her simply says, walk away. So she does. She buys a one-way ticket to the farthest place she could go. What follows is a strange and painful journey through wilderness, memory, and transformation. Told as a letter from mother to daughter, not an apology, but an explanation, The White Hot is Ude's most intimate work yet, part spiritual odyssey, part raw reckoning. It's a bold and unforgettable story of rage, escape, and ultimately renewal. Now on to nonfiction picks for book clubs. I have Black Owned And in Black-owned, NBC News reporter Shar Adams delivers a compelling and rigorously reported history of Black political movements told through the powerful lens of the Black-owned bookstore. From abolition to Black Lives Matter, Black bookstores have been hubs of resistance, organizing, and cultural celebration. Adams traces the legacy beginning with David Ruggles, who opened the country's first Black-owned bookstore in 1834, and follows the movement through the 20th century's civil rights and Black Power eras, when shops like Harlem's National Memorial African Bookstore became stages for speeches by Malcolm X and W.E.B. Du Bois and targets of FBI surveillance. Alongside stories of activism and repression, Adams also spotlights the joy and creativity these spaces fostered. Autograph parties with Eartha Kitt, readings with Langston Hughes, and a National Black Bookstore Week fronted by Maya Angelou. Today, a new generation continues the legacy with projects like No Name's Radical Hood Library carrying the torch forward. Vivid, cinematic, and deeply affirming, Black-owned is essential reading for anyone interested in Black history, activism, and the enduring power of community spaces.
All right. And last but not least, we have Survived the Night, a stunning narrative from one of the most powerful young writers at work today. It interweaves oral history with hard-hitting journalism and a deeply personal father-son journey into a searing portrait of Indigenous survival, love, and resurgence. Julian Brave Noisecat's childhood was rich with culture and contradictions. When his father, an artist haunted by a turbulent past, abandoned the family, he and his non-native mother were embraced by the urban native community in Oakland, California, as well as by family on the Cannon Lake Indian Reserve in British Columbia. In his father's absence, Noisecat immersed himself in Native history and culture to understand the man he seldom saw, his past, his story, where he came from, and, by extension, himself. Drawing from 5 years of on-the-ground reporting, We Survive the Night paints a profound and unforgettable portrait of contemporary Indigenous life, alongside an intimate and deeply powerful reckoning between a father and a son. Soulful, formally daring, indelible work from an important new voice, perfect for readers of Nicole Hannah-Jones and Clint Smith. And I'm also excited to present the end of the ski season, a new audio original. True crime podcast fans will love this fictional audio drama narrated by a full cast. A photograph, a double murder, a 40-year-old cold case. Chrissy, a journalism lecturer struggling to re-enter the workforce after maternity leave, stumbles upon a decades-old mystery that could be her ticket back into the career she loves. A photograph of 4 young women in ski wear, taken in the snowy mountains in 1980, leads her to a chilling double murder case that was never solved. As she delves into the past, balancing her investigation with caring for her infant, she uncovers a web of lies, animosity, and intense friendships that have been buried under layers of snow and time. The End of the Ski Season is a taut, immersive thriller that explores the lives and roles of women both then and now. It is sure to leave you breathless.
And the next 2 slides we have are just showing you some of our returning bestsellers. We won't talk your ear off about them because I'm sure you've heard of a couple of them. But just take a look here, and of course, we will include them in the wrap-up.
Right. All right, everybody. So thanks so much for joining. That does it for today. As a reminder, like Sharnell just said, you will receive all these materials from today's presentation. We really hope you enjoyed. We've given you back a little bit of time, but we'll be back in September, so make sure you're registered for that. But until then, have a wonderful day, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you all.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.